Good afternoon. Thank you for joining and thanks for the monthly joining the monthly SIG session. So basically, this is our special interest group for procurement, where we are handling the webinars on a monthly basis on different topic across portfolio of SAP products. And I'm myself Priya. I think most of you would know me. So I'm part of the regional strategy team handling India market unit related roadmap items, and also I work on the strategic escalations as well. So today we are going to discuss about, or the webinar is about, the roadmap on the source to contract as well as the buy and deliver topics. So we have two speakers with us today to present the topic, and I would let Kirtan and Jaideep introduce themselves, and we will get started with the session. And also, if you have any questions in the middle of the session, you can post them in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself and you can ask the questions however you feel like to go about it. Yeah. So over to you, Kirtan, for the introduction.
Thank you, Priya. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kirtan Rai. I'm part of the solution strategy group at SAP for the procurement solutions area, specifically focus on solution strategy for the APJ region. Over to you, Jaideep.
Right. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jaideep Tungare. I'm also part of the procurement solution strategy team. I'm based out of Mumbai, and happy to be here sharing our current innovations and roadmap in the area of procurement. So can we get started, Priya?
Yes, Jaideep, and Mukesh, do we need to do a roll call of the participants as well? How do you want to go? I think you're on mute, Mukesh. Unable to hear you. Okay, we'll do a quick introduction, Jaideep, for the participants. Yeah, maybe they can tell their name and the company.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Prasad Deshpande from Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. I'm part of this SAP Materials Management team in BPCL.
Yeah, thank you, Prasad. Santosh?
Yeah, hi, I'm Santosh. I'm a part of customer engagement team in SAP Ariba.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Santosh. Amit?
Yeah.
This is Amit. I'm from Centrion Pharmaceutical, based out of Gurgaon, and I'm SAP Solutions Architect for Centrion team, IT team.
Yeah, thank you, Amit. And Jay Subalam?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear
I
you.
am from New Mars Software India, Chennai में.
वो नहीं, मैं अब दूसरा एक चल रहा है और एक दो ये मैंने इस पे लगा है, ये इधर एक लगा है.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
चालू नहीं है वो participants.
Tuhin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm a part of the Network India team. I'm based out of New Delhi.
Okay, thank you. Rajiv? Rajiv, can you hear us? I think there's no audio. Okay, so Jaideep, would you like to get started? I think we should.
Yeah, sure. All right, sure. So again, good afternoon, everyone. So in my part of the session, I will be talking mainly about the innovations and roadmap that are part of the buy and deliver process, or mainly the downstream or the operational procurement process. However, before that, what I would like to do is also give an understanding of the high level SAP strategy in the area of procurement, talk a little bit about the intelligent enterprise, and give you some background as to where our company is going and these part of the solutions. So again, just a legal disclaimer at the beginning, there are certain features here which are planned out in the future. So things may change. This is how it stands at the current moment with regards to planning. So this is the overall agenda that I have. I'm going to talk a little bit about the motivation, why we are doing certain things, and what is the overall strategy. Then we will take a look at the end-to-end source-to-pay processes that are covered as part of the solution portfolio. Next, I will talk about the buy and deliver innovations, few of them that were recently delivered and which we feel are important. And then look at the roadmap in terms of, again, the key features that we are planning to deliver. And then I will also quickly go into and share the details as to how you can get more information on the SAP procurement roadmap. Okay. So with that, let's get started. So what is the common feedback that we always hear from our customers, right? So since SAP has a number of different procurement solutions, starting with SAP S4, we have SAP Ariba, we have SAP Fieldglass. So we hear a common feedback. And we have Prasad Deshpande. And hello. Can
Yeah.
you mute yourself if you don't have a question?
Guiding us on.
All right, thank you. So this is the common feedback that we hear from our customers. So one is we have an inconsistent user experience with regards to these different solutions that we have in our portfolio. A number of these solutions require certain master data, which tends to be a little bit disconnected, and at times we also end up duplicating the same master data in different systems. There are issues around integration. So certain functionalities have limited integration, and we will take a look at what are the areas that we are focusing on at this point. And then, as I said earlier, we have a fragmented stack, and there are multiple platforms. So this was the main motivation why SAP looked at it holistically about a year or more ago, and decided to move on a strategy that we will take a look at now. Okay, so we have come up with this whole overall idea of intelligent enterprise. So we believe that the best run businesses are intelligent enterprises, right? And they apply advanced technologies and best practices within their agile and integrated business processes. Now, when we look at this particular graphic, it shows that intelligent enterprise solution portfolio that SAP has, and how all of these pieces fit together. Now, a key part of this strategy is how the integration works end to end across different solutions. And for SAP, making integration work is the topmost priority. We have the breadth in our solutions, but we want the integration to work across all of these solutions. So the first thing is the intelligent suite. So the intelligent suite helps us companies run agile integrated business processes. It can help manage every part of the organizations, be it the employees, customers, products, your spend, in case of procurement, finance, and IT, right? And then we have embedded analytics as part of the intelligent suite, which can offer a 360-degree view on the overall business. Industry Cloud is something new that SAP recently launched as part of Sapphire. It will allow customers to discover and deploy vertical solutions from SAP and partners. So this is a fairly new concept right now, and we will continue hearing more as we go forward. The next piece here I'll talk about is the business technology platform, which really is the core or the foundation to all of this. And this provides data management and analytics, and supports application development and integration of these solutions end to end. Right. So it also allows customers to use end-to-end or intelligent technologies in end-to-end business processes. So these could be AI, ML, Internet of Things, basically to drive innovation and adoption within their organization. So this is a very core foundation of this overall strategy. The next part is the business network, right? So we have a unique opportunity to build a new kind of business network to digitize cross-company business processes within the ecosystem, right? So the business network can build on your procurement, travel, or contingent workforce solutions. So we already have the Ariba network, which basically allows buyers and suppliers to collaborate on different transactions. And we want to further enhance the value of it for both buyers and the suppliers. It will basically help our customers work together to build flexible and uh, resilient value chains, as you may have seen in this COVID scenario, where it is extremely important for supply chains to be resilient given any unpredictable situations. Then we have the experience management piece, which will help and act for customers to act on the customer, partner, or employee sentiment, and understanding what your stakeholders want and how they feel is critical in really in making decisions. So that's the other important piece in this overall architecture. And we also believe that doing best run businesses or running best run businesses means running it sustainably, right? So SAP solutions for sustainability will also help customers understand and manage their impact on people and environment. So this is the overall, I would say, architecture that SAP has for helping our customers be an intelligent enterprise. And it would really help customers be more resilient, successful, and sustainable, and be the best run businesses. So this is just to give you guys a high level picture of where we are and what are the different components involved. Next, I'll quickly go over the different scenarios that we are building as part of the intelligent enterprise for integrated enterprise. It starts off with the lead to cash for the customer. Then we have the source to pay for finance and procurement, which is what we are mainly talking about here. Then there's a scenario around recruit and retire, focused primarily around human resources, and then design to operate, which is more catered towards manufacturing and supply chain. So all of these different business applications are kind of built as part of this overall solution portfolio. But we want to ensure that there are certain sweet qualities that are common across all of these solutions and which really fit very well and help our customers optimize their end-to-end business processes. So just a couple of examples here I want to give is, one is seamless user experience, right? So what do we need for that? We need a harmonized look and feel and navigation patterns across all of these solutions, be it SAP Ariba or SAP S4 or SAP Fieldglass. I'm not talking about source to pay specifically. So only when we have this harmonized look and feel is when a customer or when a user would get a seamless user experience. Or we need to have consistent security and identity management. So you need to have a central identity provisioning and authentication mechanism for users in these different systems, or users which operate across systems to be able to use more effectively. Or we need embedded and cross-product analytics to give the customers a 360-degree business and customer view. So there are a number of sweet qualities which are defined as part of this overall intelligent enterprise. And I will show you what are some of those that we have achieved as part of our intelligent enterprise strategy within source to pay in the next few slides. So let's get into the details around source to pay. So what are the different end-to-end processes, or what is the terminology that we typically use when we refer to source to pay, right? So this is the overall view of source to pay process. So starts with source to contract, right from your category strategy to managing your legal contracts with trading partners, includes sourcing of your materials and services. The next piece is the planning and forecasting of demand for goods and services. Once you have done that, you would also do initiation of request for purchasing those goods and services, execute the orders, and then deliver and receive those goods and services once your suppliers have fulfilled on those. And then finally, on the buying side, you have the invoice and payment, where you create and manage invoices and credit memos, and then have early payment options, and then do the payment. So this is pretty much the buy side of the source to pay. At the same time, you have the supplier side, right? So there could be different types of suppliers, starting with your indirect goods or MRO suppliers, or your logistic providers, component suppliers, or contract manufacturers. So all of these different business partners or trading partners need to work together with your companies in order to make this an efficient process, right? So there are different aspects again here, which is the trading partner collaboration, the trading partner and risk management. So understanding the risks that are involved in doing business with many of these suppliers. Also analytics and intelligence. And then for certain larger organizations which have multiple entities, or which need to be managed using multiple backend ERP systems, we have certain capabilities around central procurement. So think of it like the SRM, or the supplier relationship management system, which SAP had, which allowed customers to connect to, say, multiple backend ERP. So that's pretty much what we say when we have a central procurement function helping customers to manage their procurement processes across different backend ERPs. So that's like the overall view of the entire source to pay process. And let's now take a look into what are some of these processes in different types of spend channels. So when we say S2P or source to pay, we categorize these into different spend channels, starting with, say, indirect MRO, direct, and then services or contingent labor. So within each of these spend types, we have identified various scenarios, and I won't go into all of these here. But what I would say is, as part of our intelligent enterprise strategy, we have started executing on these one by one, and we've almost kind of completed with executing on the indirect spend scenarios, which is around integration between the Ariba guided buying and S4 to attain a seamless end-to-end process. Similarly with sourcing and contract management, commerce automation and quote automation. So these are different scenarios that we have enabled for end-to-end integration between various solutions as part of our intelligent enterprise strategy. Some of these around direct and services contingent labor, be it with integration with Fieldglass, are in the works right now, and you will keep hearing more as we continue releasing more and more scenarios. So moving forward, I just want to now give a quick flavor of some of the important innovations that we have launched in the last few months. And I want to start off by just listing down what are the different integration scenarios that we have launched, which I mentioned as part of the previous slide. So these are just the identifiers for these different integration scenarios. We have the commerce and quote automation scenario, which is an integration between solutions between S4HANA Cloud and Ariba, SAP Ariba Commerce Automation. The number here indicates the release when it was delivered. So 1908, which was August of 2019, and similarly. Then we also released the 2NV, or the guided buying scenario, which involves the actual purchasing or the buying through the Ariba guided buying user interface, and then your entire downstream or procurement process through the S4HANA Cloud solution. We also have scenarios in the upstream space, which is integration around sourcing and contracts. Then we have a supplier integration scenario. And then we also have, so those same scenarios also integrated with the central procurement system, which is where your S4HANA Cloud could act as a hub or a central hub for multiple backend systems. So the contract scenario and the guided buying scenario also have been implemented for the central procurement. And these, as you see, have been pretty recently launched as part of our releases. Now, when I was initially talking about the suite qualities, these are some of the technology guidelines, or you can say suite qualities, that have been achieved as part of these different releases. So reference architectures, having a common or aligned business APIs across solutions, identity authentication, and SSO. So you don't really need to log in to each of the solution. Your single sign-on will enable you to seamlessly navigate across solutions. Identity provisioning and lifecycle management, having a consistent user experience. So that was a big one, where we basically made the look and feel of these solutions very similar in terms of the shell bar or the button styles or the fonts and so on. So it is basically a single solution, that experience that you would get in as you navigate through these different solutions as part of your end-to-end business processes. integration monitoring and automated provisioning are also some that we are working on and continue to work on in our future releases. So there is a lot of information on this. I just wanted to bring it out here so that you're aware of what we are doing as part of the overall integration portfolio. You can find a lot of information on the SAP Business Best Practices Hub, where you will see all of these scenarios named in this similar way. So you can get more details. You can see the exact architecture as to what is the exact business process that you're looking at, and what is the business problem and the benefits that you would get out of each of these different scenarios. So I wanted to only put in one important one, which is specific to this particular topic around buy and deliver, which is the guided buying integration for central procurement. And this, how does this integrate with Ariba buying? So this is a customer landscape where they have multiple backend systems. So you're looking at an SAP ERP or an S4 or other backends with an S4 HANA central procurement hub, which is used by the customers to monitor their individual backend systems. And then you have a Ariba guided buying user interface to actually for the users to do the shopping, right? So the process starts off with the user coming in from the from the S4HANA central procurement onto the guided buying UI, selecting items from the catalog, submitting the requisition. The requisition gets validated. It gets simulated in your backend system. There is a bunch of things that happen around this. So statuses, etc., get transmitted back to Ariba. So the end user actually has a complete visibility into what's happening with that purchase requisition in your backend system. Once that happens and once all the approvals are done, the purchase requisition actually gets created in the backend system. And that's where then the actual operational procurement process starts, wherein the purchase order is created, which is again transmitted to your central procurement hub, and then so on with further documents around goods receipt and invoices. While all of this process is happening, the status of these documents continuously keeps being sent to the Ariba guided buying system, so that the end user is always aware of where the purchase is in terms of the end-to-end process, right? So that's a very important aspect in terms of improving the visibility and transparency of the process. Well, at the same time, the purchase order also gets sent to the suppliers or the Ariba network, and the suppliers can then respond with the order confirmation, ship notice, and the invoice from the Ariba network to your to the buyers, and those get received in the backend system and then get updated back to your Ariba guided buying solution. So that's just one process I wanted to just highlight here, which is basically the 3EN and the 42K scope. So you can get a lot more details on it. As I mentioned, if you go to the best practices hub or even the SAP help.sap.com, where there is in-depth documentation around these different business processes. Okay, so let's move on to the next innovation that we recently launched. So in Q1 of this year, we released support for inventory visibility and stock reservation for our SAP ERP customers. So what does this do? This actually greatly improves your capability to manage MRO spend or any category where some items may be stocked. So be it spare parts or lab equipment or clothing, just a few examples. So what this feature will do is allow you to export an inventory catalog from your SAP ERP backend and make the items available in your regular catalog search in Ariba. And these items will be brought side by side with items that can be bought from the suppliers. So the user can even search into the catalog user interface by the SAP material number. Now, if the item is actually stocked within the organization at multiple locations, a pop-up kind of can show up, and then you can actually look at those items and then pick the right items, right? So here you see that there is items that are showing up at different locations. For example, in Bangalore, there are quantity available is 0, but in Chennai there are 2000 available in stock. So the user at this point can do can reserve actually items that are required for this particular process. So user can basically mix the regular catalog items with inventory items on the same requisition in Ariba, and once they are added to the shopping cart, the items can be ordered directly from your supplier. Once the requisition is approved or the request is approved, one order can be created for the first item, and then the two separate reservation documents can be created for the reservation of these inventory items. So in this particular screen, you see that the first item here is basically the one that is bought from the supplier, and these are the inventory items for which a reservation will be completed. So that's a big feature that we launched in Q1 of this year. We are planning to introduce the same feature also for guided buying in early 2021. Okay, so just wanted to mention this one. The second one that I wanted to mention is about viewing purchase orders in guided buying. So previously, users could view purchase orders only in the SAP Ariba procurement solutions, meaning the classical P2P UI or P2O UI. So it was difficult to really, and in guided buying, it was difficult to find the order information. So here now we have enhanced the user interface, which will allow the user to see the graphical indicators at the top as to the status of the PO. It also has details around what is the confirmed quantity or the shipped quantity, etc. It just gives you a more simplified view of your purchase order and the purchase requisition in general. So this was again a very important feature that was consistently requested by many of our customers. And again, it kind of flows seamlessly into how a requisition looks as well in your guided buying UI. So this is another important innovation that we recently launched. Now, let me talk a little bit about what are some of the key roadmap items that we are planning to deliver as part of the next few releases. So the first one is managing complex spend through procurement workspaces. So some of you may be familiar with the sourcing projects and the concept of teams, documents, tasks, etc., which are governed by the flexible project templates in Ariba Sourcing. So a procurement workspace is very similar to it. It works in a similar manner, but here the documents are extended to kind of include requisitions, purchase orders, and invoices as well from Ariba buying and invoicing. So what we have done is we have enhanced the guided buying user interface to introduce this concept of procurement workspace specifically. So with the concept of tiles in guided buying and forms, these strength of procurement workspaces can be really brought to the end user. And it will allow customers to specifically address complex buying scenarios, categories where such as marketing and events that require careful planning, or vendor quotes and tracking of budgets. So this is a very exciting functionality that will really vastly improve capabilities to kind of model this complex requirement. So this is again, we have been working for a long time. It's expected to come in the next couple of releases. So please look forward to seeing more of this. This capability is around improved user experience through intelligent approval. So as part of our initiative to embed really the intelligent capabilities in our suite, we are introducing the intelligent approval for requisitions. And this capability is planned to come in 2021, I believe. So what this does is this initially, I mean, this is introducing the concept of something like a confidence score. Confidence score is basically generated from your entire approval history. So it's about how confident is the purchase requisition likely to be approved. And it's based on your approval history of similar requests using machine learning algorithms, which are part of the SAP Procurement Intelligent Package. So if a user wants, he or she will be able to expand into that score and get more details into as to what are the attributes that are contributing into making that score. And this will basically allow users to make quick decisions without really going into details of each and every PR and understanding and approving it and making a decision. This will give a quick view of, depending on the confidence score, how likely this PR is likely to be approved. So and this again touches has different touch points, starting with Ariba buying or guided buying. It will also kind of go into, say, email based approvals and mobile app approvals as well. So this is one capability where we are using intelligent technology. As part of the new SAP Ariba Procurement mobile app, we are also refreshing the mobile user interface now based on the Fiori standard. So if some of you may be using the new app that was launched in 2019 named SAP Ariba Procurement, this app primarily had capabilities around purchasing, so shopping cart, catalog search, and approvals. We are firstly revamping the user interface based on the Fiori standards. And then we are also introducing sourcing and contract task management, which will also be now available from our Q4 release. And we are introducing the concept of push notification, part of the mobile app. So these are the three capabilities that are planned to be introduced as part of our Q4 mobile app release. So that's around mobile. The next one is next couple of features are around services procurement. So in line with our increased capabilities to manage complex services, we are introducing a feature within guided buying, which is for requesting estimates. So this is especially tailored for service estimates, where really you need a non-binding quote from one or many vendors, right? So these responses the vendors could give could include like really line level information containing goods, containing catalog items or contracted items or service elements. And these then the awarded bid could result into creating a requisition or a contract for a later release, right? So that's something that will come. And this is really going to help us completely digitize end-to-end process from a project engagement spend. So maintenance of assets or ad hoc services, and basically creation of new business models. So between these types of different collaborations. So this is one enhancement in the area of services procurement. And then finally, I have the services procurement for work order integration. So as I mentioned earlier, we are working on tightly integrating S4HANA with Ariba as well. So this functionality basically routes external purchases of goods and services on work orders through Ariba buying solution and the Ariba network. So this will allow customers to drive more compliance through catalog prices and contracts while continuously tracking the SAP work order ID across the Ariba solution. So that's quite beneficial to understand where it is originating from. Also, this can be tracked across the procurement operations desk, the POD, where they can then edit the request and collaborate between different team members. So this is also another feature that is around services procurement. So those were just a few of the important ones that I highlighted. I want to just quickly, in the interest of time, I want to just quickly go in and just show you the content. I think many of you may be very familiar with the release readiness section on Ariba Connect, where you can find different details of the different releases and where you can find content related to each and every feature. So that's on the release readiness page on Ariba Connect. And then recently we have introduced, SAP has introduced the SAP Roadmap Explorer, wherein you can actually go in to just if you just Google SAP Roadmap, and you would be taken to the Roadmap Explorer tool, wherein you can actually see the roadmap by different processes, by different products, by industries, which is across solutions. So you can basically filter it by different parameters and actually take a look at the roadmap. And this is quite dynamic in terms that it gets updated when our product teams keep working on different features and keep on updating the roadmap based on the current priorities. So again, a very helpful tool to get a realistic idea of where some features will come in and what are the timelines, right? So that was it from my side. Any questions or comments?
I think we don't have any questions in the chat, but we can check. We'll give 2 more minutes. Any questions, anyone for Jaideep? Okay.
Jaideep, as you wait for questions, if you can stop sharing, I'll go ahead and present my screen as well.
Yeah, looks like there is no questions. Kirtan, would you like to present your screen?
Yeah. All right. So good evening, everyone. And if there are no more questions, we will go ahead with the next section of this presentation, which is the roadmap for sourcing and contracts processes. I'm Kirtan Rai, and I part of the regional solution strategy group. To go through an overview, just to give you a highlight on the agenda, so Jaideep has already covered where you can find information on the existing roadmap as well as processes on release readiness. So I'm not going to cover that aspect. Also, some of the recent innovations that we have launched, you can find that information readily available. The core of this presentation is going to be some of the large marquee innovations that we are planning for sourcing and contracts in the upcoming quarters. Now, some of these features as we go along, even though most of them are planned for future, some of them might have already been released, but they are a small percentage, and they are in context to some of the larger features that are coming up later on in the quarter. So bear with me on that side. Legal disclaimer, so some of these features are planned in the future, so they're subject to uncertainty. So let's start with the sourcing innovations first. So we've been, for those of you that are aware, that are already customers of SAP Ariba and are aware of sourcing, this is one of our marquee solutions in our solution portfolio, and we've been working on a brand new sourcing UX for the past few quarters. And for the last in 2020, starting Q1 of this year, that is Jan, Feb, March of this year, we've even launched the guided beta for guided sourcing, wherein a number of customers were initially part of this project, provided feedback and so on. So we are now at a stage where we will take this solution generally available to all of our customer base starting Q4, that is next quarter. So the bulk of what you'll see on sourcing future roadmap innovations will be related to the guided sourcing UX. Now, what is the guided sourcing UX? So this is a new layer of functionalities that we have built upon the existing sourcing engine that provides several new enhancements to the way that the user would interact with the system in terms of creating the sourcing project, in terms of managing it, awarding, navigating through various elements of the sourcing lifecycle itself, right? From creation, inviting suppliers, line item management. And so it is not just going to be a new skin on the old product that of course is there, but at the same time, there are also some net new functionalities that we'll be introducing in guided sourcing with this release. And to give you an example, closer home is that of guided buying that we launched 3 years back, in fact. So when it was launched, it was a new set of capabilities, and over a course of time, even as we speak today, we are building parity with the core engine. So the same strategy will be adopted for guided sourcing as well, wherein we will launch this capability initially with the minimum viability set of functionalities. And eventually, as we go on, there will be additional capabilities that are added on in scope. For example, new project types, new processes, new rules that are available in the old guided source, in the old sourcing project will be will be imported into the guided sourcing project. So on. I'll give you a timeline. I'll give you a migration path phase at the end of this session. But to give you an idea is at day one, this was something that will not have parity with all of the existing functionalities. So we are making this opt-in capability, which means that customers can opt to, depending on the capabilities that are available at that point in time, customers can opt in for guided sourcing and then evaluate, and based on that they can adopt it, roll it out to multiple users. Doesn't mean that the old sourcing UX is switched off and the new one is and it's not binary, so which means both the sourcing UX can coexist. You can also roll it out to select users within your organization. So some users will be accessing the guided sourcing while others are in the legacy. And even the ones that are in the new UX can toggle back and forth. So which means that we've made it really flexible for you to evaluate at any stage, to evaluate it, to roll it out to any set of users, and make it non-binding in any form so that they're not tied to a single UX. But at the same time, leverage for some of the advanced capabilities that we are bringing in as part of this new UX. I'll take you through some of the capabilities over here, but just to give you an idea, based on the current observations with our customers, we've realized almost a 50% reduction in the number of clicks or the time taken to create a sourcing event with the new sourcing UX. This is because of the various enhancements that have happened in terms of the way a user interacts with the system. And you'll see some of these capabilities as I walk you through. But some of these capabilities is, number one is the brand new UX in terms of the sourcing creation process itself. There are capabilities on the line item management side, wherein instead of having to go through a separate tab and managing these line items one by one, there is bulk line item management capabilities. There is enhanced UX to manage that. There are capabilities on even importing the line items through unstructured files, and so on. We've also introduced some intelligence into the system, wherein users can now, instead of sticking to a very rigid form of line item import, which we used to through a standard template, we have introduced an unstructured file template, wherein users can pretty much enter line item details through a file of their format, an Excel file of their format, and the system will read through that, parse through that, and generate the line items in the Ariba format, and then present it in the UI for the user to approve or accept, and so on. So that's the intelligence part that's been introduced in the first phase of release. And then we've also introduced some new sourcing capabilities, core functionalities itself. For example, multi-round sourcing, ability to have a single sourcing event, have multiple rounds of bidding between suppliers. So you can include a set of suppliers to get a better price, all within the same sourcing event, instead of having to launch multiple events, so that you get common reporting. There is a single audit trail, and also the flexibility to see the price elasticity of various items based on different rounds of supplier participation. I know I'm breezing through all of this, but I wanted to go through the theory first and then go to a quick demonstration, which is a CAN demo. I wanted to take you through to see how it looks like in real life. So Priya, just let me know if you're able to see the screen. I'm just switching to a browser mode now.
Yes, Ketan.
Okay, all right, perfect. Okay. So here is the, first of all, what we have introduced is a tab called For You, which is a separate screen within Ariba itself. You have sourcing entitlement, but you can also embed it within your familiar Ariba sourcing page as a portlet. So the sourcing For You page is a stream of, it's like a Facebook timeline of all the events that you as a user is involved in, and provides real-time updates on what's going on those events. You'll see towards the end of the presentation is you can also take actions on some of these events directly through the portlet, which means approving, rejecting some of these to-do tasks, approvals can be managed within the portlet itself. So this is like a scrolling timeline that you would see on the page. In this case, we've made it as a portlet, which is a miniature version, but there is a separate tab which details all the information that you would want to see. So let's skip through that and go through the event creation mode. So here I'm going to create an event. So as you see, the whole event creation page itself has completely changed, but with all the familiar items that you would see in a normal event creation page within Ariba today. For example, you enter the metadata fields, and based on that, the template is selected. You can look up for template now. There's a search window for the template itself. I go ahead and select this. And now you're launched to the sourcing creation page. So what is different here is, and this is the crux of the development here, what you would see here is, unlike in the past where you'd had to go through multiple different tabs such as project documents, team documents, suppliers, line items, all within separate tabs which required multiple clicks to get through. This entire event is on a rolling screen, scrolling screen view. So all the processes starting from questions, adding of suppliers, adding of items, even duration management, line item headers, teams, rules, everything is mentioned in the same page, which means that you don't need to, you have saved several clicks back and forth, and all of these items starting from the header item, etc., are in an inline editable mode, which means that you don't need to again go into edit attributes, then change the item level details and so on. Not going to go into that specifically, but let's go through the invite suppliers. So I'm going to, and this view process flow shows what stage you're in exactly in your sourcing life cycle. So you go ahead and invite suppliers. So in the invite screen, which is familiar, you can filter your suppliers based on multiple parameters coming in from SLP and so on. But some new things that we've introduced is, say you have a supplier and now you have an info card for that supplier that pops up with all the information coming in from SLP on what is the vendor ID, their status, address, and so on, contacts, their qualifications, certifications, if any. And you also have qualified info, which whatever they're qualified for, if they're preferred for some other commodity, that would also be available here. So net little snippets of information that in the previous world you would have had to go to a supplier record and see actually if that's what exactly is that supplier qualified for or preferred for, and then take the call on that. But let me go ahead and invite the supplier. So we've invited 3 suppliers. Next item in the process would be to add the items. Now, here there are multiple ways you can add items through the traditional way of adding items one by one, and we have ERP integration just the way we had in the old UX. But another novel way of doing this is through the unstructured Excel. So this is a feature that I mentioned briefly in the slide as well. So typically today we have a rigid form of Excel import and export of line items, wherein Ariba provides that information. The information has to be in that exact form and format, and you upload it, and the forms are populated, and the line items are populated in the UI with the terms. So what we've introduced is you can actually create a line item Excel sheet based on your own format, and that's why the term unstructured. So with some of these item IDs, plants, and quantity, you upload that file onto the system, and the system reads through that and populates the line items with the corresponding terms. Now, this is machine read output. So as a user, you can go ahead and even change them or modify, update it as you please. But in this case, let's go ahead and import the items into the event. So now all these items with their item IDs based on the material number is imported, and you now want to add and now to want to make some edits on this thing. The other feature that we've introduced is, notice all these items have full screen views, which means that if you want to manage a particular component of the sourcing creation, such as items, questions, supplier, you can slip into a full screen mode. And within the full screen mode, there is bulk edit options, which means so you can actually have, say, add terms on bulk, select multiple items that are part of your sourcing event, or select all, or select few, and selectively add terms in bulk. So I'm going to add a term in this case for manufacturer name, and now that it's added, it's available on all the line item terms. I want to go ahead and say, select a few more terms and make some edits on some of the line items. So in this case, I'm going to, all the terms that are available for that sourcing event is available here. I simply go ahead and search what term I need to make. And I say, I want to add Acme as the manufacturer name as default for all the items. Now you could have selected it only for only for a subset of these items, and that's perfectly fine as well. In fact, you would even have the option to edit it inline. So a lot of effort saved here again in terms of managing line items, managing importing line items, and editing those line items on the go. So we go ahead, go back to the screen, and same ways for questions also. These questions are coming in from the UX, from the template. But as with line items, you could have gone ahead and created a, in fact, done any edits on the line items on the questions inline, or you could have added those questions within a full screen mode. Pretty much the same experience as going through the line item experience. So go ahead and submit the event. We start monitoring it. So there's a new monitoring interface with a lot more visual indicators on how the line item, how the event is progressing. As you can see, let's see how as the event progresses. So number of suppliers respond. There is change in the graphs. So there's indicators on how many have responded. What is the status of the supplier participation at any given point of time, and the item coverage, and so on, and as well as the event duration indicator. So now we see now all the suppliers have participated. You see that again, the line item console here, a very visually appealing indicator on which is leading, what suppliers are qualified for each, what is the rank of that supplier for that given item, what's the percentage, who's the lowest. So all of them listed in the UI itself without having to do that comparison through multiple charts. But the other aspect is I go ahead and so what you'd see here is it's showing as a round one. So this is another feature that we've introduced, which allows users to do multiple rounds of events. So which means that you don't have to close this event. Customers typically want to engage with suppliers in multiple rounds of events within the same sourcing event so that they realize better prices than the current event. So in this case, I'm going to stop the event. I'm going to start a new round. So here is the multi-round feature. So I start a new round within the same sourcing project. So I have 3 suppliers that have participated in the event, and their bids are shown here for the items that I've listed. But I want to say select only 2 suppliers. So I uninvite this supplier for the next round and only invite these 2 for the round 2. And this is there are many rounds that you can have, and it does not mean that the supplier that is uninvited for the first round is cannot be selected for the next rounds and so on. So you can have these multiple rounds using various combination of not just suppliers but also of the event items itself. Some items that you feel that you've realized the lowest price, you exclude them for that round and probably want to introduce it for the next round and so on. So all of those rounds of information will be available as part of reporting, will be available as part of your sourcing award decisions, which means that you can have that multiple iterations within a common event without having to create multiple sourcing events. So we see that now after 2 rounds, supplier responses have come in, and we submit for award for approval. And all the event information at that point is now available. You can also have initially, we will only have some out-of-the-box scenarios for optimization, and but the ones that you currently see in your UX for conditional optimization scenarios, those would be those parity features would be built in at a later point of time. But in this case, say if I want to create a custom scenario wherein I manually award the processes, you can do so right within the console again without having to skip multiple pages. You allocate what is the percentage for each supplier by mode and by quantity, or by percentage or by volume, depending on your preference. And then you go ahead and submit for approval. So once all of this is done, you're going back to the dashboard. Say you are an approver for event awarding. you go back to the for you screen and you see that not only has the timeline of those event updated, but you also have an action awaiting your approval, and you can do this approval within a single click itself, or actually you can go to the event. So in this case, we go ahead and approve the event, and then we come on to the next feature that is there, which is the bid comparison. So we've introduced this new feature. This is currently UX, generally available as we speak. But in this case, we have some additional information across multiple rounds. So all the information that is available in the sourcing event would now be, the comparison report itself will be completely configurable, including what type of highlights you want to include, what is the type of terms you want to include, what are the visual indicators for high and low and winning bid that you want to include in the report. All of those can be managed. And in addition, if it's a multi-round event, what is the kind of what are the number of rounds of information that you would want to include. So you will see here that there are various tabs or various tabs that you can use to configure, like terms, rolling up, highlighting of certain values based on their weightage or their winnability, and sorting, and so on and so forth. So this is a new feature that's already GA. I strongly suggest that you explore this, but I'm just highlighting it in the new UX as well, because it includes some additional features such as multi-round reporting as well. You export the feature and all the information is then available in your Excel sheet as well for auditability, as well as for circulation within your team for next rounds of approval. So that's the quick sourcing cycle with the new UX. I mean, it was, I went through it quite fast due to the interest of time, but there are several other features that we would encourage you to take a look when the solution goes GA. But to give you a rough idea of current GA timelines, and then, as I mentioned, what are the next phases of availability. So we are planning for a guided beta with a minimum set of features. That's when it goes in Q4. Note that not all the capabilities will be available right on day one. And as we progress through multiple phases, we will bring in scope several other functionalities from the legacy to the new sourcing UX, such as auctions will be available in phase 3, ERP integrations, full projects, and some additional capabilities such as intelligent recommendation, multi-stage events, and so on will be added as we make progress in the upcoming rounds. But like I said, it is not all or nothing at this point of time, which means that even in Q4, when it's released, you can roll it out to a select set of suppliers, a select set of buyers in your organization. There's no cost, and you can determine it based by simple group allocation, and users can start using it without any disruption. So that's the overview of the sourcing, primary sourcing features. If there are any questions, we can take it up now. Can just Priya, just let me know if there are any questions. Otherwise, we can move on to the contracts features.
So there is no questions in the chat, at least, Kirtan, but we can keep open for any. Yeah.
All right, no problem. So those were the bulk of the sourcing features. Now we'll switch gears and get into the contracts mode. In contracts, some of the features that I wanted to highlight were on the artificial intelligence side, and this is the first one of them is the intelligent contract repository, which brings in capabilities from our partner IBM Watson, a module called Compare and Comply, which allows users for intelligent searches of their contract repository based on semantic searches of the text, which means that a customer can load any contract document as part of their contracts. It could be a Word document, a PDF, and even an image file, which has been scanned as an OCR, a JPEG file or a TIFF image. And the system will go through that and parse through, and you can search for clauses or terms in that contract document. So ability to do such intelligent repository search will be made available as part of the contract repository feature. This is planned for 2021 release. Again, part of our overall partnership with IBM Watson. Then we have another feature, which is also based on an artificial intelligence component, again from the same partner, IBM Watson's Compare and Comply module. But the use case for this feature is ability for users to auto create contracts in Ariba based on documents. So which the use case is customers today have a large number of documents that are stored in their file cabinets as physical documents that needs to be digitized. And when they digitize it, the typical way is to scan those documents, OCR those documents, and upload it into a contract workspace. But what happens is that even when you load them as attachments, somebody needs to physically go through those documents to understand what is the header level data, what is the supplier, starting date, ending date. Any custom terms that you maintain for the contract has to be manually read through, which becomes a manually tedious task for a user to create truly digital contract migration. What typically customers end up doing is having those documents as attachments in their contract workspaces, and the data within the files in the contract file itself does not match with the data in the actual electronic contract workspace. So what we're what we're planning to bring with this feature is ability for the system to read through any unstructured document and extract all the elements of that, extract all the elements from that document and create a contract workspace within Ariba. So what you're seeing is what you're seeing on the PPT build is a very rough visualization of that. This is not the overall UX that it's going to be released on, but just to give you an idea. So user would pick up a document, in this case a document, in this case a Word document, but again, the document format could be anything. It could be a OCR file or so. So he uploads the document within Ariba. The system reads through the document and creates all the metadata headers on the document, extracts all the metadata headers, like what is the agreement name, what is the effective dates, termination, what is the contract amount, what is the supplier, and so on and so forth. All the standard out-of-the-box metadata as well as any custom metadata would be extracted and populated in the UI. Now the buyer would go through that, and system would also assign a confidence score based on matching. In some cases it would be high, and others it would be low. The user has the option to override or update any of these fields based on his discretion. But once he's done that, a contract workspace is created within Ariba. So this is a regular contract workspace as you would create within the UI itself today, going through all of the header and inputting all the fields manually. So same way a contract workspace is also created by reading through the document. And once that is done, the document itself that was used as the input resides within the contract workspace, and the users can then create a first-class contract workspace document that is accurate and reconciles with the data that's actually in the legacy document. So this feature will also be used to reconcile, say, existing contract workspaces, that is reconciling existing contract workspaces with their header data and the data that is existing within documents that resides within that. So say you already have several contract workspaces that you created in the past, and you want to check that whatever the data is at the header level matches the data with what's actually in the document, in the main agreement, in the contract addendum. You can run this feature, and it will say that even though your document says the agreement is ending in 2021, the header level of this file of this contract workspace says it's ending in 22. So do you want to change it? So things like that. So ability to read those files and create those auto creation of workspace from documents. That is also a feature that we are currently slotted in 21 as part of our intelligence, embedded intelligence within contracts. So moving on, the next set of features is the contract APIs. Over the last few quarters, starting from Q2, which is the May release of this year, we've released a set of APIs and will continue to update on those APIs as part of our SAP's extensibility program. In terms of releasing APIs for pretty much covering all aspects of contract creation and retrieval from Ariba, which means that users will eventually be able to consume those APIs to create a contract workspace, update a contract workspace, as well as retrieve it from Ariba. So we've already released the first phase in which users are able to update contract workspace header. You're able to extract workspace metadata headers, metadata fields, create metadata, as well as update it. As we move along, in subsequent releases, we'll also expand in the scope of those APIs ability to add documents, ability to extract documents, ability to have update teams and tasks using those APIs, create CLID documents, and so on. So pretty much imagine if you were to create a contract from an external system, you could use this API to trigger the creation of those APIs. Or if you want to retrieve all of the contract information from Ariba into your system for archival or other references, you can extract all of that across all the objects that is available in the contract, in a typical contract workspace. Supplier qualification integration. So those of you that are familiar with the sourcing and SLP functionalities. So today we have supplier eligibility criteria integration within sourcing. We are expanding that into contracts as well, which means that based on a supplier's eligibility criteria maintained in SLP, users can actually trigger contract processes as well. So which means that you set up the process for, say, the minimum eligibility for a supplier to be for a user to create a contract with the supplier is that supplier has to be registered. And if a supplier is not registered, which means the system will prevent you from registering, creating a contract. Likewise, the same status can be set up for publishing also, which means that prior to publishing, the system will check if your required status is being met by the supplier or not. If a supplier is not, say in this example, not qualified for a particular product, for a particular commodity, the system will prevent the user from publishing that contract, and until and unless that supplier has been actually qualified as one for in the SLP, the system will not allow the user to publish. So there will be three tasks that will be that the system can configure based on this eligibility criteria. One is contract creation, one is contract publishing, and the third is integration of contract with the ERP, all based on integration status that is coming in from the SLP product. So you can see all of these status that is maintained in SLP, like qualification, qualified, in disqualification, restricted, and so on. So all of those 9 status that's available can be used as the eligibility criteria for contract processes as well. Some other features that are currently already available in contracts today is CLID, ability to embed CLID in main agreement. So the line item documents is a very rich functionality. It contains a lot of heavy duty information on line items. So users typically, as part of their contract negotiation process, want to include some sort of information about that line items and the terms in the main agreement so that it is sent for signature to the suppliers. So we've introduced a capability wherein users can now add this information, select specific rows and specific columns that from a line item that needs to be included as part of the main agreement or a contract addendum, and then included in that, and then dispatched for signature, or even kept as part of the main agreement negotiation process. So any items that any columns that you pick up from a line item document will be available along with their respective data provided by the supplier or maintained by the user, for example, pricing, quantity, or any other terms, and embedded within the main agreement. You can insert this at any point in the main agreement and multiple times within the main agreement as well, just like you would add a clause from your clause library. So that capability is currently available as part of our contracts process, as part of our contract offering for strategic sourcing suite customers. We also made some enhancements on the Excel-based import of line items. I'm not going to go through this much because this is very similar to the feature that was released in sourcing a couple of quarters back. So instead of having multiple tabs for line item import and export, we provide a simplified Excel utility, that a simplified Excel format that users can use to update as well as create new line items on CLID. We've also, coming to the last feature in contracts, we've taken a step up in our current integration with sourcing, in that now users can use all the sourcing questions. If a user is creating a contract workspace from a sourcing event, all the sourcing questions that are available as part of that sourcing event would now be visible within contracts workspace. And these questions themselves can be again embedded within the main agreement. They can be used also as conditions to drive other parameters, such as team member inclusion, such as document inclusion, tasks, and so on. So based on, instead of having to maintain several thousands of templates for each kind of a varying parameter, users can now, based on the supplier's responses, actually trigger actions within the contract workspace itself. So if a supplier says that they are in a sourcing event, if you ask a question, are you certified for information security? And the answer is no. And you still awarded him though, but you would like to include additional controls or additional clauses in your main agreement as part of your contract process, which means that based on the response, those clauses will be automatically included, or an additional team member can be added, or additional workflow can be triggered, and so on. So a tighter integration between the sourcing and contracts workflow. Basically, as part, this feature is again currently generally available as part of our strategic sourcing suite offering for contracts and sourcing customers. Finally, the last feature on from an analytics perspective is the availability of SAP Analytics Cloud as a embedded reporting visualization layer for our spend analysis customers, but eventually being rolled out to multiple other Ariba solutions also. So what we are currently planning on as part of our innovation roadmap for analytics is including SAC, which is SAP Analytics Cloud, which is SAP's homegrown analytics solution, as the reporting engine that can stream data directly from Ariba applications into itself, and provide a much richer view of their customers' Ariba data, procurement data, for visualization and reporting purposes. So we are planning to have this as an embedded solution within Ariba, which means that single sign-on and single live data connectivity without any effort for the customer to actually set it up. And once it's there, the data would directly flow from Ariba solution modules within SAC and available for reporting in SAC itself. So currently, there are multiple POCs that are being developed as part of this, and this is also part of our larger analytics viewpoint in terms of creating a common analytics layer for all of Ariba solutions and all of procurement solutions from SAP in general. But this is one of the first steps that we are planning to introduce as part of the analytics overall for procurement. With that, I'm at the end of my section for roadmap, and I think if you have any questions, we can take it either through the chat window or through the audio line, both for this section, which is sourcing and contracts, also for the previous topic. So please go ahead and ask your questions.
Right now on the chat, we don't have any questions, Ketan.
Okay.
But yeah, we can open the line for the questions. Mukesh, would you like to open the line for the questions if anyone has anything to ask for Ketan or Jaideep?
I think Mukesh, you're on mute.
Mukesh, can you hear us?
Okay, if there are no questions, I think this session will anyways be recorded and will be made available to the participants, right? So
Yes, yeah,
we are available for questions even later on if there are any clarifications.
Yeah, okay. So I think then we'll go ahead and close the session. And thank you so much, Kirtan and Jaydeep, for your time and the session. It was quite informative. And we will be sharing this recording with all the participants. And probably like if there is any additional questions on the email or the WhatsApp group, what we have for SIG, we'll keep you updated. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your time. And thanks everyone for your time for participating in this session. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.